Good afternoon, everybody. What's happening? What's going on? This your girl Tiffany coming through here live in effect. Live in effect. So thank you guys that have been subscribed to my channel. Like my channel, share my channel, all that great stuff. Shout out to all my new subscribers out there. Today's subject is gonna be about the New Thought movement. All right. So many people may not be aware of the New Thought movement, but it's been around for quite some time. It's been around for a long time. Okay. And I will get into the detail of it, but the New Thought movement is very, it's pretty popular in the African American community, in the churches in particular. The late Dr. Barbara L. King was one of the ministers of a New Thought movement. That she had a New Thought church out here in Atlanta. Okay, so it's pretty prominent and pretty popular, but many people may not have heard about it. So it's like basically you deal with esotericism mixed with um, mysticism, mixed with narcissism. That's all it is. It's just all of those things in combination. That's what make the New Thought movement. So it's like the concept of Christianity or any other Abrahamic religion that's dealing with the metaphysical things that goes beyond the scriptures. All right, that deals with understanding the self, the science of the mind, etc. So it's so many things out there, and I'm going to try to cover as much as I can. Okay, so I do have some books and I have some sources that you guys can look into to learn more. All right, but let's go ahead. Let's go with some of the sources I have. So for those of you that may not know, you can look it up on Wikipedia. All right, and check out what New Thought movement is. So right here on the Wikipedia page, as you can see, New Thought movement is a spiritual movement which co-ascended in the United States in the early 19th century. New Thought was preceded by ancient thought, accumulated wisdom and philosophy from a variety of origins such as ancient Greek, Roman, Egyptian, Chinese, Taoism, Vedic, Hindu, and Buddhist cultures and their related belief system, primarily regarding the interaction between thought, belief, consciousness in the human mind, and the effects of these within and beyond the human mind. Though no direct line of transmission is traceable, many adherents to New Thought in the 19th and 20th century claim to be direct descendant from those systems. All right. And then it goes on to say, although there have been many leaders in various offshoots of New Thought philosophy, the origin of New Thoughts have often been traced back to Phineas Cumby, or even as far back as Franz Mesmer. Many of these groups are incorporated into International New Thoughts Alliance. The contemporary New Thoughts movement is loosely aligned groups of religious denomination, authors, philosophers, and individuals who share a set of beliefs concerning metaphysics, positive thinking, the laws of attraction, healing, life force, creative visualization, and personal power. All right. You guys, I'll be right back. All right, so I'm back. Let me finish where I left off at. So where I left off at is New Thought holds that infinite intelligence of God is everywhere. Spirit is the totality of real things. True human selfhood is divine. Divine thought is a force for good. Sickness originating in the mind, and right thinking has a healing effect. Although New Thought is neither monolithic nor doctrinated, in general, modern day adherents of New Thought share some core beliefs. God or intelligence is supreme, universal, and everlasting. Divinity dwells within each person, that all people are spiritual beings. And the third one is the highest spiritual principle is loving one another unconditionally and teaching and healing one another. And our mental states are carried forward into manifestation, become our experience in daily living. So William James used the term New Thought as synonymous with the mind cure movement, in which he included many sects with diverse origins such as idealism and Hinduism. So basically, that's the origin of that. Again, to break it down, the New Thought movement is basically dealing with the healing of the mind and being able to see yourself as Christ-like consciousness. So Christ-like consciousness, right, would deal with the New Thought because you're able to see yourself from a different scope. You see yourself beyond the physical. You see yourself beyond the physical, and you see yourself as a spiritual being. You know, there's a saying goes that we are spiritual beings that go through human experiences. So we are spiritual beings that go through human experiences, which is a form of new thought. All right, let's go on to the next thing. All right, so this book right here that I have, right, it's called Spiritual Yoga. And I got this from one of the festivals I attended to, right? And the guys that happened to give me this book, they was in some type of Hindu organization. And yeah, I got this book for free. But this book will be like a prime example of what New Thought is. Okay. So as you can see, this book right here, it's called Spiritual Yoga. Oh. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and go on to the next thing. Now you can also what's up, Vinyasa? How you doing? Shout out to you. What's up, Vinyasa? So you can also find out more information if you go on sacredtext.com. If you go on this website, you'll see where it says New Thought, right? So New Thought movement, which originated, again, they say in the 19th and early 20th century, right? Okay, has at its core a belief that a higher power pervades all existence and that individuals can create their own reality via affirmation, meditation, and prayer. Okay. Early New Thought groups emerged from a Christian Science background, and many New Thought writers refer back to the Bible as their foundation text. New Thoughts resembles, in some respect, New Age philosophy, although some New Thoughts group dismiss a connection. This page includes some of the writings of this movement as well as a related similar text. So someone asked me, and peace, by the way, who is the writer of that book? I'm not sure how to say this person's name, but it's some type of Hindu name. I know it's AC Bhakti Vendata. Bhakti Vendata, if that's how you say the name. Bhakti Dandada. I'm not sure that this person got a Hindu name, so it's very complicated to pronounce. But yeah, I had this book for quite some time though. I don't know if you can see the title. I don't know if you can see the name. I'll type it in the comment section. How about that? I'll just go ahead and type it in the comment section. That'll be a lot better. Let me go ahead and type it in the section for you. Mm-hmm. All right, so yeah, I typed it in the comment section. I typed the name of the author of this book. All right. But yeah, I'm just showing an example. Like this book will be kind of like into the new thought movement type of thing. So yeah. It really gets into yoga, meditation, and talk about Krishna, consciousness, etc. All that good stuff in this book. So I have read like the first 2 pages of this information right here. So I typed the name in the comment section for you. All right, so there's a list of books on here. Let's see now. You got the Self-Suggestion. You got the Secret Science Behind Miracles by Max Freedom Long. Know Your Magnetic Field by William E. Gray, right? And Internal Career, Frank L. Hammer. And by the same person, Life and Its Mysteries. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. The Secret of the Universe by Nathan R. Wood. And The Secret of Ages, Robert Kohler. Going up to here, you got In Tune with the Infinite by Ralph Waldo Trine. The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Dolores Waddle. And it is a long list. So let me see which one I want to pick into this category right here. So let's look at Life and Its Mystery real fast. All right, so right here, Life and Its Mystery by Frank L. Hammer, 1945. So it said this is a short collection article by a WW2 World War II era U.S. author who appeared to have been influenced by New Thought. Okay, and then let's go into the content. Talk about birth, mind, thought, telepathy, truth, free will, miracle, equality, affinity, and individuality, reality, and morality, future life of animals, and answers and questions. All right, so let's just start with the first one, birth. You're welcome. It says, strange indeed that people who have implicit faith in life after death should imagine the soul to be new at birth. They do not reason deeply enough. If the soul lives after death, it must of necessity live before birth, as the circle of immorality is not complete unless the living comes from the dead as well as passed to them. All right. So the soul has lived before and is merely awakened when it comes to earth, being born from another state to continue its development. Physical birth clothes the soul with a body of flesh, and countless people think this body the real man. I am tired, I am hungry, I am sick, are etc. are common yet erroneous expression. For it is the body clamoring for the rest, food, or attention. And in this article, we are confining our statement to man, the spirit. Therefore, there need be no conflict with the theories entertained as to his physical origin. There are scores of volumes on anthropology and every theory supported by an imposing list of authorities. All right. So it says question most frequently as pertaining to birth, we shall try to answer in this chapter. Those who believe that man's ancestry is animal usually ask this question: at what stage of evolution did man come into possession of a soul and evolve from an animal into a human being? Man has always been man and a human being, but it was many ages before the soul spoke and the man heard, and in appearance resembled the butte more than the present form of humanity. But no one, regardless of animal propensities or aspect, ever was or is devoid of soul. Man is a child of God, not an offspring of a monkey. Both his origin and destiny are spiritual. And so that's just to give it an example. And let's see, let's go to another one. So let's go to the next one. Again, you guys can come over here and check out this website. Let's look at the one about the science of the mind. All right, so the Science of the Mind by Ernest Holmes in 1926, right? So Ernest Holmes founded religious science, part of the New Thought movement, schooled in Christian Science. He moved to Los Angeles in 1912. Holmes published his first book, Creative Mind, in 1919, and followed it up with the Science of the Mind in 1926. Holmes had an immense influence on New Age beliefs, particularly his core philosophy that we create our own reality. This is the text of the first edition of the Science of the Mind. A revised edition of this book was published in 1938. So as you can see, you got the titles, right? And part 1 is the evolution of man's thoughts. Part 2 is the lesson. And lesson 1 is the nature of being. Lesson 2, the nature of man. Lesson 3, the mental healing. Lesson 4, the control of condition. Lesson 5, the perfect whole. Lesson 6, the law of psychic phenomena. Part 3, special articles. Part 4, daily meditation for self-help and healing. So let's go to part 1. So part 1 is the science of the mind, the evolution of man's thought. Instinctive man. If we trace man's history back into the dim past, we should come to a place where he did not consciously know himself. We should come to a place where instinctive man alone existed, for the self-conscious man had not yet evolved. Nothing can be more apparent than that man, as he now appears, is the result of growth and unfoldment. But in order to unfold, he had to have something from which to unfold. And since he is intelligent, he must have unfolded from an intelligent cause. Instinctive man then means that inner something or life which we do not see, but which is, of course, there. We might say that instinctive life is God in man, or the idea of God working through man. But if instinctive man is an idea of God, why is he not perfect? The answer is that he is perfect, but that as soon as individuality involved, he must be left alone to discover himself. Even God could not make a mechanical individuality. If man is created with the attributes of self-choice and free will, he must be let alone to make the great discovery for himself. It seems like a good book, isn't it? Nature waits on man's self-recognition. So it says, we know that from the day when instinctive life brought man to the point of self-choice, it let him alone. And from that day, instinctive life has waited on man's unfoldment. It is true that during all this time, it has created on automatic function of the body and has even silently told man what to do, but it has let him alone in all other ways. It may and must hold man as perfect being, but it also must let him discover this fact for himself. During all this time, however, instinctive life or God must be silently waiting for the great discovery to be made and must always be ready to respond to man's advancement. We know this to be true along the line of man progress. For instance, consider the discovery of any of nature's forces. We know that they must have always existed, but so far as man is concerned, they exist to him only after he has discovered and learned how to make use of them. Electricity was a reality in the universe when Moses led the children of Israel from the land of Egypt. But neither Moses nor any of his followers knew anything about it. And so they did not receive any benefit from its use. This is true of any and all of the natural laws. They always existed. And as soon as understood may be used. In this way, instinctive life waits upon man's discovery of natural laws and his discovery of himself and his relationship to the great whole. If this is so evidently true of all the forces in the natural world, we must expect to find the same thing to be true of those inner and final forces within man. The unfoldment of these inner and final forces through man is what we call his evolution. And again, this book is called The Science of the Mind, the evolution of man's thought. All right. And then you guys make sure you check out sacredtext.com if you want to look more about this information, more into this book. You can look at sacredtext.com. I recommend people go on this website. One of the best websites to find out sacred texts, ancient texts, old books, all that, any religion, philosophy, ancient religion, etc. This is the website that people need to go on. All right. So now in this book, I can go into, let's see. All right, so let's look at a prime example of this book. All right, so it says, serve the great souls, right? It says the human body is like a junction. One may take either the path of liberation or the path of leading to a hellish condition. How one can take these paths is described herein. On the path of liberation, one associated with the Mahatmas, and on the path of bondage, one associated with those attached to the sense gratification in women. There are two types of Mahatmas: the impersonalist and the devotee. Although their ultimate goal is different, the process of emancipation is almost the same. Both want internal happiness. One seeks happiness in impersonal Brahman, and the other seeks happiness in the association of the supreme personality of Godhead. This happiness is described in the first verse as Brahma Sukama or Sukanyam. Brahman means spirit or the internal. Both the impersonalist and the devotee seek internal blissful life. In any case, it is advised that one become perfect in the words of, yeah, I'm just going to stop right there. All right, and then to continue on, it says to remain unattached to the modes of material nature, one should avoid associating with those who are asat, materialistic. There are two kinds of materialists. One is attached to women and sense of gratification, and the other is simply a non-devotee. On the positive side is association of the Mahatmas, and on the negative side is the avoidance of non-devotees and woman hunters. All right, so that's this book. Again, just basically teaching about discipline, being able to get into the higher self, and all of that good stuff, etc. So the name of the book is called Spiritual Yoga. All right, and there's many more books written by this author here. So I'm hold on, let me zoom it up for y'all. So if you guys can see the title, the name of the author. Okay. All right, so then the next one, this one deals with African American in New Thought Church. So, as I mentioned earlier, uh, there's the New Thought movement is very popular within the African American community. Many people just don't know this title. You got those who identify themselves as spiritual healers, also like divine teachers, educators, etc., holistic healers, and all of that stuff. All right, so you'll find that this New Thought stuff is very prominent within the Black community. Okay, so one of the people that will be considered as New Thought teacher, as far as the Black community concerned, is Reverend Ike. So Reverend Ike incorporated a lot of New Thought into his preaching. Okay, because he preached about prosperity, and he also preached about doing for self and seeing God as a reflection of self. There was a segment where he was on Phil Donahue's show, and he mentioned that he do not use the Bible as a form of theology, but he used the Bible as a form of psychology. He said he does not use the Bible as a form of theology, but he used it as a form of psychology, meaning that he used the Bible as a way to get man to understand and see himself as God, as one with Christ, and not see himself separate from Christ or separate from God, but see himself as one. You know what I'm saying? But the man was a very flamboyant individual. He was very flamboyant. He always dressed up. He drove around in fancy cars and wore jewelries and things like that. He was very flamboyant. He didn't hide the fact that he was about money, but his thing was law of attraction, laws of nature, and understand the science of the mind and the psychology of self, etc. That was his thing. So he preached that, and he said, if you pretty much see yourself and you see the power of yourself, you can bring prosperity into your life. You can make money, but you cannot just worship God and think that God's going to do all the work for you. You got to be able to manifest God within you. That was his whole thing. All righty. And excuse me if I'm a little unprepared. You know, I'm just a little unorthodox right about now. So excuse me. So I'm not my usual self at the moment. Okay, so this book is called Beyond Christianity, African American in a New Thought Church. All right. So let's go into it. Oh, excuse me. So then now you got the introduction. Oh, let me tell you the name of the author. By Darnice C. Martin. The name of the book was written by Darnice C. Martin. Okay, again, that's the title. This book came out in this book came out in 2005. And it's called, and here's the introduction. What is religious science, historical intercession, and new religious adaptation? Westward migration African American communities in the San Francisco Bay Area, East Bay's Church of Religious Science and Perspective, methodological intercession and conclusion, implication for the future. All right, so here's the introduction. And the introduction goes like this. The predominantly African American congregation fills 3 services at the East Bay Church of Religious Science on Sunday mornings. Members and visitors come regularly to this church in downtown Oakland, California, that is known throughout the community for its lively, uplifting environment, accomplished gospel choir, and empowering sermon that teach a philosophy called religious science. The East Bay Church of Religious Science sustains a community that successfully embodies an African American worship environment while simultaneously modeling the tenets of a historically white New Thought religion. To date, there is not much known about those African Americans who take part in this religion. This book, the first to focus on African American religious sciences, is a start towards filling the need. This work is significant because the attraction of the East Bay Church of Religious Science to African Americans has considerable ramification for the way the concept of African American religion is defined and discussed. I lift up religious science as a type of religious modality that has largely been overlooked in the African American religious studies literature. The study of the EBCRS expands our scholarly conversation beyond the historical focus upon Christianity and Islam as legitimate religious practice in which African American people are engaged. This book advanced the religious pluralism discourse by inviting the voices of religious science and New Thought generally to the mainstream discussion of American religions. So, the background approach. Religion science, or science of the mind as it also called, is a religious and philosophical teaching that was developed by Ernest Holmes in 1927. It is built upon a pantheistic system of universal and spiritual principle and the practical application of these principles to one's life. African Americans involved in religious science represent an exception to traditional description of African American religious practice. While there are a handful of established and prominent African American New Thought churches around the United States, such as the Universal Foundation for Better Living in Chicago, Hillside Chapel, and Truth Center in Atlanta, which was founded by the late Dr. Barbara L. King, and also Agape International Center of Truth in Los Angeles, there has been no research on the phenomenon of African American who belong to and regularly participate in these movements. This book seeks to respond to this void through an ethnographic study of the East Bay Church of Religious Science in Oakland, California. My work with the EBCRS community offers original research and insight into the intersection of religious science and African American cultural aesthetic as observed within the context of a particular Oakland congregation. So now, let's skip on down. Let's skip down the page. Let's go down to where it says, what is religious science? There is power. There is a powerful good in the universe greater than you are, and you can use it. All right. So it says, the East Bay Church of Religious Science is the touchstone by which to observe the practical application of religious science. We will see how this group of African Americans had adopted a religion typically thought of as a religion for whites to fit their needs and circumstances. While almost all African Americans were outside the cultural and social 19th century New England model from which New Thought developed, the people of the EBCRS represent a substantial number of African Americans who now claim New Thought or religious science specifically as their religion. And it goes on to say, the minister of the church, Reverend Eluse Oliver, has stated that the mission of the EBCRS is to help every individual attain a life, including health, relationship, and finances. She described her work as the business of raising consciousness through the principle of religious science. These teaching and practices affirm that a person's consciousness is the gateway through which all things come into being. Whatever a person is experiencing in the moment is reflective of his or her level of consciousness. Prosperity and well-being manifest themselves in the lives of only those who believe they are possible for them. Those who do not believe in these possibilities must turn to consciousness raising. All persons must get past the mental and emotional issue they are blocking them from experiencing positive results in their lives. So then it goes on to say, philosophies such as this are often simplistically relegated to notion about the power of positive thinking. However, religious science is supported by cosmological and theological proposition that move it beyond a secular positive thinking system. Likewise, it is distinguished from the sound alike religion of Scientology and Christian Science. The first response from those unfamiliar with religious science often to associate it with one of these movements. Yet It is neither the same as Scientology. The movement started by L. Ron Hubbard and popularized by his book Dynetics and the many celebrities who ascribe to it. Nor it is the same as Christian Science, though the two share some common history and can be considered distant cousins. More of their relationship will be discussed later. All right, so religious science share a historical legacy with many liberal religious traditions such as Unitarian Universalism, Transcendentalism, and Christian Science, but it is distinct from them as well. Similarly, those religious science shares many of the symbols and scriptures of Christianity. It is not a Christian religion in an orthodox term. The founder Ernest Holmes sought to remain of outside the confines of any one religion, but felt free to integrate into his own system the truths he found across the spectrum of religion and philosophy. Consequently, religious science can be appeared to be Christian if individuals choose to participate it as such. All right, so from his youth in rural Maine, Ernest Holmes was a avid reader and learned to absorb and articulate vast amounts of information. Despite his intellectual curiosity, he left school at 15 to work and follow his own interests. In 1927, he founded religious science, or science of mind, as it also called, a religious and philosophical teaching. He described it as follows: science of mind represents the correlation of religion, science, and philosophy. We are a religion in the sense that we explore and teach universal principles, define the spiritual nature of the universe and our relatedness to God. We are a science, in that students are asked to experiment with these universal principles and accept only those which they can prove, demonstrate, or experience in their daily lives. We are philosophy in that ideas and ideals are brought together into a system of concept about God, the cosmos, humanity, and human possibility. So this book goes very deep, and it says, furthermore, religious science is a denomination of New Thought religion. The philosophical basis of these various teachings is a metaphysical idealism that affirms the nature of reality to be based upon thoughts or ideas. These teaching holds that in back of all visible forms, in the invisible first cause, created through the medium of thought. Moreover, New Thought affirms a pantheistic universe in which all creation of God is God in manifestation, and a monistic or unified deity who operates impersonally through principle. Principle is to be understood in this context as a basic truth, a law which has been proved inflammable. It works without known exception, and impersonal. It works for everyone alike. Science of the mind deals with spiritual principle, which works the same way, inflammably and impersonally. Followers of these religions believe that one's mental consciousness controls one's life experiences. They teach that it is within each individual's power to raise his or her own consciousness through prayer and affirmative thinking as the means towards attaining fulfillment. All right, so that's the book right here. Again, the title, Beyond Christianity, by Darnice C. Martin, and you guys can check this out, which deals with African American and New Thought Church. All right. So that's pretty much I have for today as far as the information is concerned, right? What I think of it is, I think that the New Thought idea will be more prominent, and it will be a lot better and more efficient than just going to a church that, or just going into a religion that's centered around the idea that there's this God that you have to worship and you have to deal with him from that physical standpoint, and you are made to believe that these deities are going to come back in the physical form to control humanity. But if it was taught the way from a metaphysical point of view and deal with the esoteric, the Gnosticism, and the mysticism, then I think human would be able to get a better understanding, be more consciously aware. So what you see is a lot of spiritual science, and you see a lot of that being incorporated. You see the connection. So if we was taught that from the beginning, we will be more we'll be more rational. I would say we'll become very rational people. But what makes us irrational is the fact that we're looking for things from a tangible standpoint and not understand the intangible, not understand the abstract, but we just trying to deal with things from the concrete. And that tends to be the problem. Yeah, that becomes very problematic. That becomes a issue, and it questions one mental state. Well, if you really believe that it's tangible and it's concrete, then what does that say about you? That's saying that you're not able to think outside the box. You're not able to understand the metaphors of things. You're not understanding the allegories. So I think with the new thought, the whole thing is to be able to understand the allegories of the religious text that you're reading, being able to think outside the box and actually think for yourself and see yourself differently beyond your human flesh, but see yourself beyond the human flesh and see yourself as a spiritual being that's operating from that's going through a human experience, and being able to realize that you have the power to change what's going on in your life and not someone else. You have to be able to change your way of thinking. So when you change your way of thinking, then you change how you how you do things and how you view things. So that's what I got out of it, and that's what I get from this whole thing. And I think that is a good place to start for many people. Yep. Anyways, that's all the information I have for today. And I thank you guys for those of you that have been watching. Make sure you guys subscribe to my channel, share to my channel, like the channel, all that great stuff. And until next time, I will connect with you all later. I will connect with you all and I will come up with various topics, dealing with various subject matter. Okay. So I'm slowly for sure getting back. I haven't been on here for the past couple of days. So I've been taking some time off. But I will get back, doing more topic more often. Just stay tuned. Y'all take it easy. Y'all be safe. Thank you so much once again. Shout out to all the new subscribers and shout out to everybody that's been supporting my channel. All right, and make sure you guys check out all my other video contents on here. And for those of you just coming in, you have to watch the video from the very beginning. So until then, y'all take it easy. Peace and power elevation be to all you. This your girl Tiffany, and I'm logging off. All right, and I'm gonna come back being more prepared. so, so yeah, I'm gonna come back being more prepared. Make sure I got all my information on deck. So I ain't got all the stuff, all the material that I have. So, but yeah, y'all take it easy and be safe. Peace. All right. Hey Lion. Thank you for coming through. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Shout out to the chat though. Thank y'all so much. All right. Yep. Y'all have a good one. Y'all be safe, man. Y'all be careful out here. That's all I gotta tell you. Peace.